I want to start out by just telling you that I hope we all appreciate how critically important this program is to saving lives. The access to communication, if you've ever seen any example of how critical maintaining access to communications is, you can look at Harvey, you can look at what happened with Irma. This is a program that is about saving lives. When I look at this program, I think about it in the context of 911 programs. I think of it in the context of all of the other availability for especially older elderly to live in their homes, to live worry-free in their homes and still have that access. So this is not a choice for me of throwing out the baby with the bathwater, but you've got to get it right. And so I want to talk about, what could be kind of a reaction to the GAO report. In the report issued by GAO in May, they recommended the Universal Service Administration Company transfer their funds, which are currently held in private bank accounts, into the Treasury. I'm concerned that that could be done without assurances that the funds would be rated or transferred around to help pay down the debt, or in the case of extraordinary measures used when we're hitting close to the debt ceiling. And I think it's critical that the universal service fee maintain its ability to access these funds without implementation to maintain the continuity providers rely on. And one thing, we all grouse when we pay the additional taxes and we pay the additional fees when we pay our communications bills, but I do it with a smile because I think that means that a grandma in her home, still able to live, has access to important and critical communication services. And so those funds are intended for that purpose. And what are we going to do to guarantee, if we do follow the GAO recommendation to transfer them into bank accounts, that those funds are insulated or protected against utilization and for other purposes? Mr. Pai?
Senator, thank you for the question. My understanding is that the funds being transferred to Treasury actually make the universal service funds more insured against the risk of loss, that there are federal management and other practices that the Treasury observes that will make sure that those funds are there for the grandmother that you spoke about. The second point is, my understanding is that those funds, once transferred to Treasury, would be used to offset debts that are owed by payees. And so, for example, if Party X owes money to the IRS, and that party is also getting Lifeline subsidies from the FCC, those funds being in Treasury would be allowed to be an offset, which is a way of giving the federal government more flexibility.
Well, we're going to be watching very closely the administration of those funds to guarantee that those funds are utilized the way, when I pay my bill, I expect them to be utilized. I want to just talk more systematic, because I think Senator McCaskill and Senator Johnson, we're always amazed, because it's like when people come in front of our committee and you think, oh, we just discovered this problem. Guess what? We didn't just discover this problem. This is a problem that's been ongoing for a lot of years. Why is it that there never seems to be urgency in solving this problem when we discover it? A problem of fraud, waste, and abuse, we would think you'd jump on that, say, man, we don't want to go in front of Clara and Ron because they're going to have our lunch. Why is it that I envision that in 2 years we're going to be back here talking about the same thing, unless people really get that our expectation is that in protecting the federal fisc, you have to act with immediacy and urgency when you see a problem. And why is it that we don't seem to get that?
Senator, I couldn't agree with you more, and as Senator McCaskill knows, because we've talked about this issue, she and I, for many years now, when I was a commissioner, I was irritated about the fact that the prior administration at the FCC did not make this a priority. That's why I started my own investigation as a minority commissioner, because I wanted to get facts. I sent USAC a number of letters in my capacity as a commissioner, because I didn't have the chance to set the agenda for the agency, but I wanted Congress, the American public, to know that someone at the FCC was looking at this issue. Now that I'm in the driver's seat, it is a top priority when we've got an enforcement plan to go after the unscrupulous actors. I've sent USAC a very detailed letter on July 11th saying, weed out the dead subscribers, weed out the ineligible subscribers, make these sales agents register with USAC before they get into dip into the database. I mean, these are some of the steps we're taking to make sure that the problems we saw in 2014, 2015, 2016, and under the prior leadership do not continue. And I want you to be able to go back to North Dakota and say, this program is delivering for the grandmother who deserves it and nobody else. No unscrupulous actors, no undeserving beneficiaries.
Mr. Pai, you're a big thinker. I mean, that's your reputation in town, that you think beyond, what you're doing. Offer us some advice on how we can create a greater sense of urgency in this, in the bureaucracy. I'm not even going to say the administration, because I don't think this is an administration to administration problem. We do oversight. We can't sit here and administer agencies, and we only respond when we have hearings like this. But give me 3 good ideas on how we can create a greater sense of urgency when people spot fraud or waste or abuse, or just have a good idea that could promote government efficiency.
Well, that's a good question, Senator, and you're certainly putting my reputation, if that is earned, on the line in the setting. But
well, I don't always agree with you, but you are known as a big thinker.
We were doing so well. Well, Senator, I will say a couple different ideas that spring to my mind, especially after reading the GAO report. Number one is that it is always better, I think, to have upfront verification as opposed to after-the-fact enforcement. The pay-and-chase model that was described in the GAO report is never going to be sufficient. It's going to be, as Senator McCaskill has described it before, sort of like whack-a-mole. You just hope to catch the ones that you can after the fact. So having upfront verification is very important. Secondly, one of the things that Senator McCaskill has talked about, including today, is having a cap, a budget for the program. I think any family in the United States knows, okay, before going out and spending a bunch of money, let's see how much money we have available, and we don't want to go above that money. We don't have a meaningful budget mechanism for the Lifeline program, and that's something that I think many advocates have talked about as well. The third thing, and this is a much bigger picture, but we have to think about what is the purpose of the program, and does the FCC have, and USAC on our behalf, have the ability to monitor with key metrics whether we are meeting that goal. As GAO points out, we don't have the ability right now to know, for example, are these funds actually going to people who otherwise have non-Lifeline phone services and other services? We need to make sure that we figure out what the goal is and then measure whether the program is meeting that goal in a very quantitative way. And that's something I think that Congress could certainly look at.
Just to close the loophole on that, Mr. Chairman, Senator Langford and I just had a hearing yesterday talking about government efficiency, and we talked about the lack of cost-benefit analysis on existing programs. We do it on regulations, major regulations, but we don't analyze ongoing programs probably as adequately as what we should.